watched Alien Romulus.
We did. We just got out of the theater watching Alien Romulus.
And we're doing a green take about it. So thank you guys for joining us.
I'm very excited to talk about this.
Yeah?
But I want to talk about something else first.
Oh.
We just stepped out of the theater.
Swerve.
We've seen Alien Romulus.
Opening night, I believe. So this is very fresh.
Very fresh, and I'm excited to talk about it. But I realized you and I have talked a lot about Alien. I don't know exactly why. Some of them made sense. Like we talked about it during Last Voyage of the Demeter, but that was logical.
It's just kind of one of those like tentpole movies, I think, for our generation, where it has a lot of like impact. You know, a lot of stuff is downstream of it.
Precisely.
It's an ancestor movie.
I think we've talked about it on 3 separate videos, but we've never actually sat down and talked about an Alien movie. A first time will be today. So I thought, you know what I was thinking? I'd like to do a little segment right now.
Oh, a segment.
Where I wanted to do a little lightning round where I go through a quick review of every Alien film to date. Just for everyone at home, if you haven't seen all the Aliens, get you up to date, or if you've seen them all, serve as a little refresher. Now I'm not gonna do Alien versus Predator. That's the one caveat I'm gonna put out there because they're not canon. The first one's fine and stupid, and I haven't seen the second one. That's my review of Alien vs. Predator, but we're gonna talk about the rest of the Alien franchise. Alien, 1979, the original. This movie is 5 out of 5, it's a masterpiece. It's not only one of the greatest pieces of sci-fi and horror of all time, I would say it is one of the best films of all time, and it's certainly in my top 5. I think it's a lightning in a bottle movie. You got Ridley Scott directing. You got Dan O'Bannon doing a basically perfect script for this movie. The icing on top is you got Geiger doing the art, which would basically set the aesthetic and of how space would look and feel for sci-fi forever, at least within its own genre. Super influential film, one of the few films I put as a perfect movie personally. Aliens goes on to set basically the gold standard for how to do a sequel. It bring in a new director who's equally talented, but has their own vision for the thing. You keep some of the elements that are the same, namely the xenomorphs and the general space dirty aesthetic, and you also change the genre. You swap out horror for action, which is just a really fun way to explore this setting in a brand new genre. And it basically changed the way sequels were made and the way we approach making sequels to today. Alien 3 is weird. Alien 3 is like boring and dark. It's really strangely David Fincher's feature debut. But if you look into that, that's not his fault. He wasn't David Fincher at this point. He was an unknown. He had to take over for a director. There was like 5 writers who left the project. It was studio intervention and behind the scenes nonsense to the most extreme. And it just kind of shows in the final product. It's kind of boring and dull. And apparently there's something called the assembly cut, which is like a different final cut that's supposed to be good. And some people say they like Alien 3. God bless them. It's boring and there's just really nothing going on. It's kind of a falls flat movie. It's not terrible, it's not there. Then we get into Alien Resurrection. Now, Alien Resurrection, I have a riddle for you, Avery. What do you get? What do you get when you set out to make an Alien sequel? You hire a French art film director who would go on to make the film Amélie. You hire Joss Whedon to write it, who does an Avengers-esque script full of quips. And you bring Sigourney Weaver back, but she has the one condition that she gets to film a sex scene with a xenomorph. The answer is a shit show. That's the movie that you get from all of that.
Say that!
Now, I will say they did negotiate and talk her out of a sex scene with the xenomorphs. Instead, the compromise was to have her come back as a Ripley clone with alien DNA, which gave her superpowers. So maybe worse.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Alien Resurrection is one of my favorite Alien movies for all the wrong reasons. It pushes cleanly into the so bad it's good. This is a watch with your friends movie night movie a la The Room. And I would say is more entertaining than most of the films in the Alien franchise because it's so bad that it is good. And for that reason alone is actually one of my most beloved Alien films for all the wrong reasons. We then move into Prometheus. Now Prometheus is Ridley Scott's coming back. He's gonna make his new Alien movie. Everyone's excited, but Ridley Scott doesn't want to make an Alien movie. He wants to make a movie about God and about the origins of mankind and the origins of the xenomorph and have all kinds of allegories to Christian religion as well as mythology. And everyone hates it, except for me. I loved it, but everyone else hated it. It is a bad script. The dialogue's terrible. Things the characters do in the movie make no sense, but it is visually stunning. I think the set direction and the art direction rival the original Alien, and the themes and ideas it brings forth about like the creation of mankind and mythology and religion are genuinely interesting, and I was really excited to see where it took the franchise. Cue our next movie, Alien Covenant. No one liked Prometheus, so the studio said, Ridley Scott, you gotta come back and make just one of those alien movies where there's an alien going around killing people on a spaceship. So that's what they did, and they called it Alien Covenant, and they even put a semicolon in it and the word alien to make sure you know it's an Alien sequel. And they basically undo all of Prometheus as fast as possible. They say, how do we undo the damage you've caused and write our way towards having an alien on a ship killing people again as fast as possible? And they do that, they retcon all of Prometheus, and the result is, okay, it's a competently made movie, but the fact that we had to throw away all this interesting setup out of Prometheus and what we got in return was a mediocre sci-fi action movie is a big letdown, and for that reason, I kind of hate Alien Covenant, even though it's just okay. Which brings us to today, Alien Romulus, which we just saw. Now, of the 3 Alien movies you have seen, Avery, do you think that was a fair lightning round review of those films?
I do. I have... So, I've seen Alien. It was about 6 months ago. I finally sat down and watched start to finish. I had heard the tales. It held up. It's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
With the whole, I think the TV tropes calls it the Seinfeld isn't funny effect, where something becomes bad because of how many things you've already seen that were inspired by it before you saw it. That didn't happen.
No.
I've seen 1,000 things heavily inspired by this, as well as hours and hours of The Simpsons and Family Guy and YouTube content parodying it, which ruins stuff like Back to the Future. I went back and watched that and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is just, I know all these lines from memes. This is just not a movie anymore.
Yeah.
No, Alien's still unbelievable. Still one of the best movies I've ever seen. Still damn near perfect. I have seen little bits and pieces of Prometheus in hotel rooms. It's okay.
It's a good place to watch it.
And then I watched an entire Let's Play of Alien Isolation.
Okay.
Which is actually fantastic.
Yes, it is.
It's like genuinely a really good Alien movie.
Yeah.
Like the gameplay, I don't want to play that. I got enough stress in my life. But watching the video is really cool. It takes place like immediately after Alien.
Alien, yeah.
And it's about her daughter. And it's like kind of this movie.
Right.
Which is weird. But that's my knowledge. And then otherwise, I think it's just what I've heard from you. So yes, good summary of the rest.
And that's Alien franchise. So we just got out of the theater of Alien Romulus, Avery. Opening night.
Alan Ramius.
Amber Lambris.
This could be our only ticket out of here. Should be in and out in 30 minutes.
What did you think of this film?
I thought this movie was damn near perfectly made and it did almost nothing for me. And I feel very bad about that. I did not have a great time watching it. I was just kind of like, this isn't for me. There's a comparison I always make. Funnily enough, you already brought up Mr. David Fincher. Made a couple pictures called Seven and Gone Girl, and even Fight Club, which are all movies that I can appreciate, are brilliantly made movies. And I hated watching all of them and never want to watch them again.
Did you hate this movie?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not hate it. I did not have a terrible time. It was the second best Alien movie I've ever seen.
Probably the third best I've ever seen.
I cannot, the faults that I can point to are insignificant. I thought it maybe tried to find a few too many like metaphors and didn't quite develop all of them. Metaphors is the wrong word, themes. I thought it kind of felt like a greatest hits album as opposed to a new movie. But it did a really good job. I mean, everything about this movie is brilliant. And if you're looking for just like Alien again, but with some new stuff and some clever ideas and it's great.
Yeah?
Yeah. I can't knock it other than it was not for me and I did not have that much fun watching it.
My review is very similar in that I think it was an almost perfectly put together movie and it did everything for me.
Okay. I figured.
Are you sure you want to do this?
I would say I think I loved this movie. I gave Alien Covenant crap in my little lightning round there for being, how do we get you back on a spaceship with an alien chasing you around? And Alien Covenant did that and I gave it crap for that. You could be like, oh, but Reed, that's what Alien Romulus is. But I think the difference is this movie wasn't pretending it was anything else.
No, this didn't start with papering over a movie they're trying to get you to forget about.
This doesn't start with like Michael Fassbender wandering around and you're like, who's this guy? And there's all this, it cuts right
not
to
like
it.
playing the flute against himself. I've seen that scene.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's
that
weird.
is a weird scene.
I don't know. This is just a very... It came by it honestly. I mean, it drops you into a bunch of new characters. There's ties to the other stuff, but it's just enough to make sense. And yeah, it was really, really well done. And as I was watching it, I just like... I could feel myself just like bored and uninterested. And this is Green Takes. We got out of the theater an hour ago. Maybe next week I'll know why. And I feel very bad for this. It's excellent. It really is.
I was sitting I think after about the 15-minute mark, once kind of shit hits the fan, I was sitting in the theater like this.
Yeah.
Just the whole time. I was literally like, okay, you said it's like a greatest hits album, which I think is a fair point to make.
I don't want this to sound like it's lazy, like at all. Like I say that because it was obviously on purpose, right? This is basically the same plot structure as Alien, and then they bring in some of the best ideas from Prometheus, from Aliens, from Covenant, from Alien Isolation. Like they grab a couple little things, and even like from some of Fede Alvarez's other stuff.
Yeah.
He's the director, and they really just kind of jazz it up enough to be worth making another. You know, if you describe the plot in broad strokes, it's Alien again. It's a very similar plot. It's Force Awakens type of like a recut. So I don't want that to sound like it's a really bad thing. It is just kind of something I'm vaguely aware of.
And I was thinking, like, what do you do with an Alien movie if not this? Ridley Scott tried it. Everyone hated it, which isn't to say it couldn't be done better. Mm-hmm. The reality is, the Alien premise and why people come back is because it's people fighting aliens in like a secluded space place.
Yeah.
And that's why it works. I think Greatest Hits is fair. It ties into what I was thinking about this movie, which is like, this is like and I'd say this with love, the greatest Alien fan film of all time. It's like, I assume he is, Fede Alvarez is probably a massive fan of Alien, clearly.
You would have been the right age. You would have been like 14 when it came out, I think.
And I'm picturing Fede Alvarez, Alien comes out, and he's probably just like, but why don't they try freezing off the tail?
Yeah.
Oh, why don't they try increasing their body temperature if they can only see thermal? And he just started writing this stuff down, and he made a movie where he basically, like, the way I would describe it is if he took the rag that is Alien and he friggin' juiced every last drop out of this premise. It's like, oh, their blood is acid? How do we use that as much as possible to create tension? Mm-hmm. Oh, they can sense body temperature, or...
the whole thing with the androids, right? Like some of the moral quandary stuff that like started to happen with Ash in the first one. I mean, they bring... Ash is his name, right? Yeah. Yeah, they literally bring him back in this movie. And they like take it further.
Yeah.
That was
pretty bad. That's one big note.
The CGI was really bad.
They should not have done that. That was bad. Just make him another actor. All synths don't look the same in the Alien universe. That was silly. But yeah, like even like the anti-gravity. In the first couple of minutes, they're like, oh, the gravity drive boots up on and off, and it shows how the gravity turns on and then drops stuff. I'm like, they're gonna use that, and a bad movie doesn't use that. They use it at the beginning and then they forget about it. This movie, like, it came up in the climax, and I'm like, yes. Yeah. And it just used every single toy in the toy box to make this as fun as possible. I think that's what my biggest takeaway from this was, is he didn't leave any stone unturned for what you could do with an Alien movie, to the point that I'm almost like, what do you do for the next one? I feel like he took like every idea, every creative little choice of what you could do with this premise, and he put it all in this, which is great, but I almost had that moment of like, where do you go from here? What gimmicks are even left?
That's honestly pretty fair. Like, I mean, unfortunately, I think the answer is you don't. I mean, it's a very simple premise, and you may just be out of stuff. And of course, Hollywood's never going to accept that. And I think that's certainly how I feel. If this movie didn't grab me and I'm not like excited to rewatch it or watch the sequel, the well's dry, man. Yeah. You did it. The alien on a spaceship. We solved it. Done.
Yeah, they did the best one.
Write a new thing.
Now, we'll get to this when we talk about spoilers later. The end of this movie goes into territory that I do think does set up interesting potential future stuff if you wanted to do something different, if you wanted to do not just an alien on a ship. There's stuff to be done there that Prometheus kind of introduced. So we'll get to that later because it is spoilers. But yeah, I do kind of agree. Like, I don't know... They kind of remade Alien. The Force Awakens is a perfect analogy. The Force Awakens was A New Hope. Yeah. But they did such a good job with it, or a good enough job, that most people were like, but I still had fun. I'm not going to rag on them for it being a remake because I still enjoyed it. I feel like that was this. It's like, there's every single camera movement and shot choice and action set piece was so well thought out and choreographed. Like, there's so much love in this.
There was.
And so much of the Alien franchise is devoid of love.
Yes.
A lot of those movies are just like stale, and it's like no one knew what to do. And this is the complete opposite to that.
Yeah, like the floor of this movie was very high. Like there's nothing bad about it. And so many of these like reboots, remakes, sequels, whatever, just have this, you know, you can't escape it. You can't get your head out of it. It's like, I'm just thinking about the executives in the boardroom and like the online trolls and like all this history, and it's just like you can't get away from it. It's so hard to navigate this universe that exists before. And this movie really did a good job of navigating around all that and just being like, we're just gonna make a really competent film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did a darn good job.
Run.
Let's talk about cast really quick.
Okay.
I think everyone did a serviceable job.
What is she from? What is she from?
Civil War, where you didn't like her in it.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. She was better in this. I thought she had a little more range and it was more appropriate for her.
I thought she was good, and I also think the only bad parts of her performance were just terrible dialogue that's not her fault. Like, there was some really stupid lines. There was some throwback to old Alien lines that were and I was just like, this movie is such a love letter. You didn't also literally need to quote Aliens, but I'm not going to be too bothered by it, but I do think her performance was fine. Everyone's performances was good. The standout to me was the synthetic guy.
Yes.
The android, what's his name? Barry? Denny?
Start with an A.
Andy. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
I think that guy's going to pop up probably in more stuff because he was like the clear standout, and it's a very difficult thing to do to play in an android and have it not just be like ridiculous and overdone. And I thought he did enough subtle little face twinges and reactions to moments and awkward pauses that it felt like a genuine android, which is weird to say.
He did. In the first 30 minutes, I thought they certainly were trying to make it an autism thing.
Yeah.
I am not qualified to comment on that objectively. Subjectively, I found that a little annoying and distracting, and like it didn't really get the point across. I just think like, I don't know. That wasn't that effective for me. Like the autism allegory of an android.
Clear
was like,
parallel there, which is also
I
kind
don't
of weird because it's like androids in this universe don't present as autistic humans.
No.
Like we've seen Lance Henriksen in Aliens, and what's his name from Brazil?
Oh, Ian Holm.
Ian Holm.
Yeah.
The whole thing with like Ian Holm and Lance Henriksen is that they like are completely human.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that like Andy's not. I just mean that like he's clearly presenting as an autistic man. I think they try to hand wave that as like he's a defective model. I don't want to get too into the weeds on did they perform representation well, because neither of us are qualified to speak about that. What I will say, if we put that aside, the way he did act generated immediate sympathy, and I cared about their relationship throughout the movie.
Yeah.
The movies like this, where you have characters dying off and you have to care about these two people caring about each other, I almost never do. And I actually did care about their relationship, and I wanted to see them reconcile. And the movie pulled that off, which isn't like a crazy high bar, but for movies in this survival horror genre, that is rare. That is not something most people achieve, and they did it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Aside, like, other than those little bits that where it looked like it was an autism allegory, like I did really like his performance. He had to portray like several different characters as part of this role, and he did a really good job. And they didn't get too hung up on synth stuff, like world building synth stuff. There's like a couple lines of like, oh, he can't come to the planet, whatever. But they didn't spend like a ton of time with that, which I liked. They didn't overdo it.
Yeah, and I think that's something Alien has always been good at, is implicit world building. Like the first Alien, you're just on a ship with people getting killed by an alien.
Yeah.
But they set up this Wayland Corp that they're working for. It's like, what's that? What is that company? And then they go down to an alien planet, but you only see it like from exterior shots, and it's all misty. And they go in an old alien ship, and there's like a mysterious skeleton in it, and that's not even the alien, that's the alien.
Yeah.
So there's all these little things where you're like, I want to know more. And Alien to me has always been at its strongest when it does that implicit world building. Those little hints at a larger world, but we're seeing this claustrophobic tiny story. And I think this movie did that well. It added all kinds of little details that hinted to the larger world in really creative ways. That were a callback to the original Alien, but they actually pulled it off in their own way. And the way they tied in some elements from Prometheus as well I think heightened that. Like I liked the effort to make this world feel a bit bigger, but still keeping that objective of like implicit world building.
Yeah.
There she is.
You want to break in and steal highly regulated equipment.
Before we go into spoilers, I want to talk about a little bit of themes.
Okay.
Theme work. So Alien has always been very much about parenthood.
Yep.
The alien itself is clearly very phallic. That's always been part of Alien. And like the main thing about Alien, the whole gimmick, is their reproductive cycle.
Yeah.
Right? The eggs and the face huggers. So like you can't separate aliens and parenting and that the weird sexual stuff going on there. That's been true in Alien. In Aliens, they double down on it with Ripley essentially being a surrogate mother for Newt. In Prometheus, the engineers created humans and see us as their children.
There's literally an abortion in that movie.
Or a C-section.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a C-section in Prometheus.
Yeah.
So they always have committed to that. I thought it was interesting that this movie has that, obviously, but it introduced a sibling theme.
Yeah.
Remus and Romulus are literally the ship they're named after, who are brothers in mythology. Two of the main cast are siblings. The main girl and her surrogate brother, the android, have this whole sibling relationship. And I thought that was like, they don't do anything explicitly with it, but I thought it was cool that they acknowledged that there's always been this family theme, but parenthood in Alien, and this one pushed it into sibling stuff, which they've never really ventured into before. And there's no way it was an accident. There's too many siblings in this. And the Remus Romulus is where I was like, it's locked in. So I don't know. I think I need to think more about like maybe what that meant. I don't know that there's like a greater meaning to that or if it was just to be thematic, but I thought it was an interesting touch.
I think probably if I had to, I do think it was interesting. I don't think I can talk about it without spoilers. I can, I guess. I can. I would say that the sibling relationship is a little bit more tumultuous than a parent-child relationship, whereas the parent-child relationship is going to tend to be more kind of unconditional and dependent. The sibling relationship is more kind of butting heads and disagreeing, but realizing you love each other. And I would say that played out in the movie.
Yeah, this movie utilized that.
Yeah.
Whereas Aliens, like with the Queen Alien and Newton Ripley, is playing on that unconditional love and that protection of your children, which this movie didn't really touch. That wasn't the point, which was neat. Shall we spoiler it up?
Impact event in 5, 4.
Talk about the big man baby?
We gotta.
Let's talk about the big man baby.
I gotta say, like, I spent a lot of this movie just kind of being like, yeah, this isn't for me. It's good, but it's not for me. Once that happened, I was ready for the second twist. So other lady who was pregnant, injects herself with the stuff, which I was annoyed that they actually showed her injecting herself with the stuff. I wanted that to be a little sneakier, but anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know there's something bad's gonna happen. It's the same thing as Alien, where they get back on the ship and it's like, everything's fine. No, it's not. Despite kind of knowing what beat they were going for, I was not ready for the human baby alien. Okay, this is the most horrifying creature design. Holy shit.
It is amazing.
That was brilliant.
I loved it. Prometheus set up this black goop, right? That was the whole thing in Prometheus, is there's this black goop, which is hinted to have been what the aliens were created from, but also a weapon that was going to be used to destroy them. Prometheus did not really identify what it was, and then Alien Covenant tried to shove it away.
Right.
This movie brought it back, didn't explain it, which I enjoyed, because then it's kind of like it's still a mystery, but we all know it's going to transform you into a big monster.
Yeah, they did a little bit of stupid dialogue with Ian Holm that you ignored, and then they did some storytelling with the rat, which I loved.
That was
great.
great.
That was good, where they were like, look, this rat came back from being squished. Oh no, but now it's a big monster thing.
Lovecraftian monstrosity.
So that was very cool. I did think that they did a much better job of that than Prometheus, for sure.
And the thing is, like, we know aliens now. We've seen all these alien movies, and in Alien, as much as it is one of the most iconic creature designs of all time, you're kind of locked in.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we know their abilities. The mouth coming out was crazy in 1979, and Fede Alvarez made it look as good as possible.
Yeah.
But there's still no, like, surprise. You're watching the characters learn the alien abilities, but we all know it. So there's that.
I think that's what deflated a lot of, like, the middle hour of the movie for me, is I'm like, yeah, I know. They have acid blood and long tails.
Right. I think he knew that, which is why he used it in all these crazy set pieces, because he's like, I know you know their blood's acid. What if you got a fly through zero gravity acid blood.
Yeah.
That ups the stakes. But for the people like you who still weren't satisfied, he's like, what if
Yeah, okay, and he got me.
you
I
turn
really got
into
me.
a big, tall, spooky man baby at the end?
That was, there's just no other way to, like, I hope that you're not getting, whatever. This was just, so the lady who was pregnant injects herself with the black goop, and then they put, at the end, the fake out ending, everyone's in the cryo tubes about to fly to the happy planet, and she suddenly gives birth to a kinda alien, kinda baby thing. And man, this creature design is just
Timeless.
I've never seen anything like it. It must be what it was like to see the xenomorph in 1979 or 1981.
That's a great point.
It was.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And when I said
I
earlier,
did too, honestly.
when I said earlier, this movie's ending, I think, pushes them into some interesting new territory. I think this could be the movie to take the time to step away from the alien in Alien. If you made the Alien franchise about the black goop, I realize that would piss off a lot of people and everyone would be like, where's Alien?
Like,
But-
what it? Like, who's going to an Alien
I
movie
don't
and being
know.
like, there wasn't
People-
enough xenomorphs?
People hate everything. My point is, you go black goop route, you've opened up the franchise to like the whole concept of Dead Space, the video game.
Yeah.
You can make new aliens that are way crazier than a xenomorph, so we no longer have to be boxed into the xenomorph.
It's just hard that they tried that twice and false started, and then like they did a good job this time.
Yeah.
But it's hard to be like if they do it again and reboot the black goop again next time, be like,
No, but
"Ah."
I'm saying black goop from the get-go.
Okay.
Like there are not aliens,
It's
or
just,
the
you can't screw up again on this.
or the creatures evoke aliens like
Yeah.
Man Baby, but you make it about the goop and you make the creature design. Give Fede Alvarez the sequel. Give him all the budget for creature effects because he clearly does a good job, and just let him cook. Let them come up with man babies and all their friends
It's funny.
and make the movie about that. That would be crazy.
I remember when we did a long time ago, we did a little movie called Last Voyage of the Demeter, right? Which
First time we
is-
talked about Alien on the
First
channel.
time we talked about Alien, and that movie kind of ended for me, my interest, when they started showing the vampire in full light.
Yeah.
And I think I said in the review something to the effect of like, doesn't look that good, but like it's hard. I get it. It's not, apparently you can do it,
Man Baby look good.
because this was just like the same thing, and they just did it right, where it was absolutely terrifying through and through, even when it was like well lit in frame.
Obscured by like steam, like flashing lights, just giving you glimpses of it.
Yeah.
But it's like they do show you. It's not a mystery what it looks like, but they still it's
just kept
perfectly
doing
lit.
stuff.
And the way it smiled,
Oh my god.
it smiled and did an alien scream from a human face. Like my brain couldn't parse what I was
I
seeing.
don't think I've ever been this affected by, like, the only other one I can think of is the Jack in the Box and Krampus, which is not the same thing, but this is the only other creature design that's stuck with me this much.
Yeah. I
Like, good job. A+++ on
they're
this
not gonna
friggin'
make
monster.
if they're not gonna make an Alien sequel to this,
Hmm.
give Fede Alvarez generic sci-fi Lovecraft horror
Have them do
movie.
the Dead Space movie. Why not?
Have them do that.
I'm sure they're making one.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
One thing that I want to say, you talked a little bit, you said you appreciated that they set up the gravity thing at the start and then paid it off at the end. I don't know if this is just I watch too many movies and think too hard about them. I got annoyed and it felt student filmy a little bit. I think they did that too much. It happens like 7 times in the first 30 minutes that they're like, here's the cryo fuel. Here's the gravity. This lady's pregnant. And you're like, yeah, okay.
I know.
How all of these are going to pay off immediately, and I was right about all of them. And it was like, it's cynical. I understand that. But I was like, it tipped over the point where I'm like, okay, you're setting up things, cool, you're done.
Yeah.
Move on to things happening.
Although I do think this kind of I think we're going over the rainbow. I think we've gone so deep that we're now mad at movies for properly setting up things and paying them off.
It was just very formulaic, I found. And like in a movie that, when it's the 11th movie in a franchise, I think I can dock it for being like very formulaic and rigidly following the structure.
I'd still rather they do it than not. If she at the end was like, I'm gonna turn off the gravity drive, I'd have been like, and they hadn't set it up, I'd be like, what the f? There's
Yeah.
a gravity drive?
That's fair.
So how do you do it otherwise?
No, I get that.
Like, what's the alternative, right?
I think that the script was really good. I was hungry for a little bit more kind of breaking the mold and a little bit more creativity in the first hour. I think this movie only made like bold creative decisions in the last like 20, 30 minutes.
I disagree,
Okay.
but I think it depends how you define creative decisions, because I think basically from the moment you're in face huggers in the water, every set piece did something I have not seen in another Alien movie.
Did it?
Tried to do something new.
I definitely didn't feel like that. When I say it's a greatest hits album, like that was something, if I'd never seen an Alien movie, I think I would have been riveted, but I was just so much like, okay, like I know what face, and this is me, I understand. Like this was effective and well put together, but I was just like, I get it. I know what a xenomorph is. I know what a facehugger is. I know what the androids are. Like I know Ian Holm's gonna jump scare, like the android's gonna jump scare because it's still alive. Like I expected everything until the last 20 minutes. And I haven't seen that many Alien things. I don't know. I'm curious if anyone on the internet feels this way, that this movie just like, I wanted something more creative in the middle part. It was all good.
So when you say creative, because I think
something unexpected.
But you mean like from literal content?
Yeah.
Like what it is about, because I think you could not have shot this more creatively. Like you couldn't, the way, like face huggers killing people in a room of shallow water, that's not that creative of a concept, I agree.
Yeah.
The way he shot it with upside down camera work, underwater shots, like POV cameras of the face, like he basically did everything he could.
Creative in the script. The filmmaking was brilliant.
Right, so the direction was creative, but the content itself wasn't that creative, is what you're saying.
Yes, and I mean, you said this kind of felt like a student film, or like a fan film, sorry. Like a really, really, really good fan film.
Yeah.
And I think kind of part and parcel with that is that it just, again, accepting the man-baby thing at the end, this was just, there just wasn't a lot of things that happened where I'm like, that's not what I thought was about to happen.
Yeah, I think when I say it feels like the best fan film, what I mean by that is it's someone who's watched these movies and loved these movies and thought, why don't they just do this? Why don't they try to do this? What if you did this? And he put all those things in. So I have seen all the Alien movies, and it's not like I don't know their blood's acid, and it's not like I don't know what a face hugger is. But it's like, I felt like he was writing the movie for people like me who knew all that, and then he created scenarios using it that we have not necessarily seen before.
I want to say like a thought that I had during the movie where I was disappointed. So there's a point in the movie where our Andy the android, Andy the synth, gets a little chip in his head and starts to act differently. He knows I'm expecting this to be a slasher with a xenomorph. He's gonna flip it and make it a slasher where Andy is the villain. That's what I like. For a second, I was like, oh, they're about to hide from Andy for the next 30 minutes. Because that actually happens in Alien Isolation. Like the synths are like a major, like a video game. The synths are like a major villain, like for a lot of it, and it's great. It's like it's terrifying. And I was thrilled. I was like, that's such a cool idea. And then they don't. And I was like, okay.
Well, they
like,
kind of do.
It's hard for me to hold it against the movie for not doing my idea, you know what I mean? But like, I realized that I was like, I need some kind of flip. I want my expectations subverted a little bit. Just like at some point before the man-baby thing at the very end. And they weren't.
Yeah, because I would say this is not a subvert expectations movie. It's a show you what you know in a way you've never seen it. That's what this is.
Yes. And to be clear, this would take it from like a B plus to like an A for me, right? Like it's not like this was a failure because it didn't do that. And I understand that some people may not have been looking for that, but it's what I found myself walking out like now that I'm thinking about it more, that's what I was missing. It was like something in the middle hour that wasn't just kind of by the numbers what I would have written for like my best guess for the script.
Okay, fair enough. And I think he, at the end of the day, he had to make an Alien movie. So I think for him to feel like he had succeeded in that, and probably working within studio confines of the literal things he had to put in the movie, I'm assuming there was some like, you gotta have xenomorphs.
Yep.
I'm sure someone would have stopped him if he's like, I'm not gonna put xenomorphs in it.
Yeah.
Working within those types of confines, I think he did as much as he could and juiced this to the fucking bone.
Yes.
He'd do every last drop of juice out of what he could of content that we know
Unbelievable job.
inside and out.
Yes.
And that's, yeah. Good job, Fede.
Fede did it, yeah. No. Like, technically and within the like, once you accept that the script is what it is, I don't think you could have done anything better with this movie.
Right.
Pretty much.
And you didn't talk about this yet. It is just visually stunning.
Absolutely brilliant.
Some of the space shots and the way the camera lingers in space and we see our characters through windows. You know that's the stuff Ridley Scott wanted to do in '79, and this movie took the opportunity with modern tech to do these interesting shots and creative stuff. A ship crashing into an ice meteor belt. Like, those are the types of ideas that I think creators would want to put in an Alien movie, but that no one has succeeded on, and no one's had the like energy or initiative to go after those big ideas.
But not only that, they also brought it back to the original stuff in like the buttons, the panels.
That analog tech.
Prometheus is all like Star Trek-y, right? Like not everything, but like it's a lot more of that
Which
way.
is also weird because it's a prequel.
I know,
But
like,
so this committed to that
they just
analog.
kind of threw in the towel, but like they're like, well, we know what technology is now. But like, no, they were like, everything's a big mechanical red button. I loved that. That was awesome.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Hi everyone, this is Editor Read. We're now entering the part of the video where we somehow forgot to film our scoring segment. This segment, which we've done on every episode of The Green Corner to date, somehow just slipped our minds. We wrapped up the shoot and called it a day, only recalling later that we are in fact very stupid. So I now present to you our critical and personal scores for Alien Romulus by voiceover. Avery has decided to give Alien Romulus a B+ critically, followed by a B- personally. When asked for comment, Avery said, "It was a B+ movie I had a B- time watching." I, on the other hand, was more generous, giving Alien Romulus an A- critically and an A personally. It was just a really fun time, and made by someone who clearly loves this franchise, which is refreshing. If I had one note, it would be to increase the amount of goop and man babies in the next one. As far as I'm concerned, you can never have enough goop or man babies. And now, back to the outro.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Well, it's Alien Romulus.
If you're looking and you're like, oh, I don't want to go watch Alien 1, that's too old. I already seen it, or I don't like Sigourney Weaver, but you just still want to watch it. Watch Alien Romulus.
And also you want the most disgusting body horror you've seen in months. We forgot to mention that. There is crazy gore effects and body horror in this. I didn't think it was going to go there.
No.
He wasn't breastfeeding, was he?
No, but they were going for it. I don't know what...
I think
they chickened out.
I think there was a
I think that was in the script, and they're like, oh God, Fede, we can't put this in. I mean, some of the stuff he put in Don't Breathe, like...
If you want to
see... We know he'll go there.
If you want to see big, scary man baby potentially breastfeed and other horrible atrocities amongst a really great movie, check out Alien Romulus. It's a blast. Thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check out our Patreon. And until next time, Green
Corner.